Hey, everybody.
Good afternoon. It's Siobhan and Kent, and we are,
Our next installment of the Let Me Run virtual program.
What do you do if all of the events that you typically train for are canceled?
Good question.
Sometimes, well, I'll back up by saying sometimes people ask me over the years, what are you training for if they see me out running or something? And I always jokingly say, I'm training for life, right? Because we want to keep our running going just for our health and fitness, and lately our mental health and fitness. But many of us have always been motivated and driven by the event and by the time, the experience, or the time spent training. I love training for an event. I'm not
I love racing in the
fan
event.
of the event, but the training makes me so happy. So Kent and I were just talking about this.
So yeah, I mean it's difficult with races being canceled, track seasons being canceled, etc.
And
and
not knowing what's ahead.
hard to get motivated. But the big thing that the big picture is you have a year of training, right? And it's, do you want to get the most out of it you can, or do you want to let it slip away? And the way that we like to think about planning a year is with microcycles and macrocycles, right? So typically those are centered around an event, right?
Yes, and the cycles change in intensity and duration depending on the event. So this is a great example. My event that I'm still training for to see if it happens is for November 1st, the 50th running of the New York City Marathon.
And that would be much different training than
What this guy would be getting ready for.
the Michigan Mile, 1 mile road race in the end of August.
So because we're not sure if either of those events are happening, it would suck
mine
if they
actually got canceled.
All right, so his got canceled, but mine still might happen. And wouldn't that be horrible
If you weren't in shape
if
for
I
it.
wasn't ready for it? So I'm going to train for the marathon, whether it happens or not. And Kent is training for the mile, whether it happens or
We
not.
typically talk about having a couple of key events in the year. So a macro cycle would be an extended period of time where you did training at different levels and increased intensity and duration and got to what we call a peak, where you were ready for this one event you put all this hard work in for, and that would be the end of part of your macro cycle. And we typically would do 2 or maybe 3 of those a year, depending on the length or the distances that you're training for.
Right.
Usually with marathons, we only target 2 a year. But if you're training for 5Ks, miles, 10Ks, you can target more than a few macro cycles within the year.
And I think that what's important for us right now is to embrace that mindset that we're going to keep in training. And to do that, everybody's cycles are different, right? So Kent's training specifically will be based on shorter, faster speed for the mile, and mine is obviously going to be based on distance and building up my base for that. Doing it in a way that I can absorb my fitness and then gradually get, hopefully,
incremental improvements.
Incremental
So those are the
measured
micro cycles.
improvements.
So within that big, say 6-month block or 4-month block,
Right.
you've got little blocks of what am I going to do in this segment? What's going to be the focus of this part?
So our invitation to you, the point of this video, is to, if you do not yet have one of those events, maybe it's time to
Pick
choose one. The steel rail is a great one, because we don't know yet either.
But we'll have it virtually.
The other thing
if
too
we
is,
can't have it physically.
I've spent some years where I don't race at all, and those are some of the happiest years of my life, but I still train as if I'm going to race. So this is familiar to me. We have many virtual races going on at Berkshire Running Center, but to run a virtual race, you really just, you've been doing it every day you go out, really. And then just making sure that you're maintaining that safe, strong, healthy, uninjured, motivated rubric, right?
Right. The basic difference between a race and a run is during a race you're going as hard as you possibly can.
Right.
Hopefully on every other run you're not doing that. Even your interval training sessions shouldn't be as hard as a race. So to plan those efforts when you're going to sleep and hydrate, and you're going to get up and you're going to make sure your body's awake, and you're gonna go through all the things that you need to, and go out and put a really hard effort in. That's a race,
Yeah.
and that's what you want to try to do, whether it's a time trial, doing it by yourself, or if you have one person or a couple people that you can kind of socially distance and still do it, or maybe we'll have a real one soon.
Well, the nice thing about this too is that it takes a little bit of that anxiety, stress of the day of event performance thing going on. Many of you hopefully are training for the Josh Billings. That's a whole other thing. This might be the year to train for the Josh Billings because, that might too end up being a virtual race. But right now we're planning, our committee's going forward, planning to put it on, right? So that would be another type of training that you're doing. And that's something else that we can always help people with. Training for the Josh is different than training for, the mile or the marathon. You want to have something that's specific that you're working towards.
You want to basically plan your workout, figure out what it is you're training for, figure out how long you have to train for it, where you're starting right now, and build the best training program you can to get there.
Yep, and we can help with that. We do that. We do personalized training plans, and they are successful. However, what we are saying to you, these tenets that we're laying down should pretty much help you get there on your own. But we're happy to help out with specifics if you ever need that. It's kind of a beautiful day. If you haven't gotten out for your run, I hope that you do it soon.
Before it gets too hot.
You guys take care. Bye.